Hey guys, welcome to Golf Ball Addict, here with another golf ball review today. Continuing along the line of the two-piece golf balls that I've been doing lately, I went ahead and wanted to review, from what I've heard, is one of the best. That's of course going to be the Titleist TruFeel. Titleist, of course, makes some of the best golf balls in the world, but the question is, can they carry that formula into a two-piece beginner ball? Can they be the best at everything or only the best at some things? Let's find out. All right, so starting off, of course, the Titleist TruFeel golf ball is a little different. It's definitely their revamped model for the new year, and it's definitely got a little bit of a design change, as you can see from these pictures. Of course, my golf dot actually did stay pretty good through the whole thing, which is awesome. You'll see a little bit of damage there, but we'll get more to that in a minute. The golf ball just has Titleist's basic black logo with a red number. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I always say. And then if you look on the side here, you'll notice something a little interesting. This actually is their alignment tool on the side. It says TruFeel, of course, right there. Very basic, very simple, and then it's got these single red lines. If you watch my channel at all, you know that I'm actually kind of a snob for the alignment markers on the side. And honestly, this is pretty unique. I haven't seen anything like this, especially on one of the two-piece golf balls I've tested. This is, nice block lines. The TruFeel really feels like it fits in there. It just has a nice look to it. It's really well marketed. But more importantly, this really gives you a good thick look, and I think you can align your ball and really get some good putts off of it. I was really having a lot of success putting it, and I was able to use the alignment tool really well. So I like that. I think Titleist did a phenomenal job with that. Honestly, the golf ball, like I said, with Titleist, most of the time it's when if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it looks like they've done that, but it looks like they have still innovated a little bit there, which is awesome. Moving into the next part here, the cover, of course, is not going to be urethane. It is a cheaper golf ball. It's $22.99 a dozen retail, which is a little bit expensive as far as the two-piece golf balls go. But again, we're talking about Titleist here. We're not talking about, a third-party company, a direct-to-consumer, or even, a Top Flight. We're talking about Titleist, one of the best in the game. So I do expect it to be at that price point. $22.99 isn't the end of the world for a golf ball, especially if it performs well. But we'll be definitely testing that. So Titleist is using a proprietary blend. We have noticed it's a little bit different, especially when I was putting the dots on there. We noticed that it was reacting a little bit differently than normal, urethane cover does. So Titleist is using their own proprietary blend. I did not like it on the Pro V1. I thought that it kind of ruined the durability a little bit, but I understand it's their first year doing it, and I understand that they have to, you practice makes perfect. They're going to have to perfect it over a few years. It's not going to be great overnight, even with it being Titleist. So let's get into, we know it's a two-piece. We know, the good design of the golf ball. Let's go ahead and get into some chipping and putting around the green, and let's see how it performed. All right, so chipping around the green with a two-piece golf ball like this, I wasn't expecting much, and I didn't get a lot, unfortunately. Now, with most two-piece golf balls, you just don't get a lot of checkup right around the green. Anything from 20, 30 yards out, you can usually get at least a little bit checkup from any ball, but when you're right around the green, that's really where I like to test these. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of the last ball I tested, which was the Top Flight Control Hammer. I mean, if you really hit it perfect and really hit it well, play it toward the back of your stance, you can get some checkup, but honestly, most of the time there's not. There's a pretty good release. If you do hit it perfect, you get just a tiny bit, but honestly, the majority of the time I would count on the ball rolling quite a bit. If you've got some softer greens, of course, that'll affect it, but overall, nothing really too impressive, but with a two-piece golf ball, I wasn't expecting a lot. All right, guys, so just some thoughts on the putter here. So Titleist has done a great job as far as the feel of this golf ball off the putter. Usually when I review the softness off the putter, it usually falls into one of two categories. Either the first one is it's really soft and squishy and it kind of jumps off the putter like a sponge effect, or it's a little bit more firmer and you feel the feedback and, it doesn't maybe go as far but has a little bit more true of a roll. This one actually kind of does a great job of balancing both. It does have just a slight press to it. The amount of feedback is about a medium, but honestly it feels good, it feels right, but it also does spring off the putter. So I've never seen a ball, as far as a two-piece or really any ball, honestly, that does both. Usually it's one or the other, and you know, whatever you like, you go with. This one actually is just that hybrid of both, to be honest with you. It has a really good feel to it. It comes off very nice. I like how it feels with the putter. So if you're someone who, you know, likes to have a little bit of feedback, but you also, you know, don't want to have to come back as far as a beginner, I can see this being a great golf ball around the greens for you. As far as the feel off of the wedge earlier, again, very soft, minimal feedback. It felt really nice. Titleist has been doing this for a long time, and it's obvious, it shows, because the feel off both clubs was really amazing, and hopefully that'll translate over to when I take the full shots. All right, so let's get into some of these numbers here and see exactly how this golf ball stands up. Very high expectations for this, I'll go ahead and tell you right now. So first off, sand wedge, 50-yard pitch, we're looking at 7,603. Not bad, right in the average. It doesn't surprise me. It's not spectacular, but it's right where it needs to be. 7,500 and up is pretty much going to be a good starting point as far as a 50-yard pitch. It will stop on the green. And this cover, although I'm not sure exactly how I feel about the proprietary blend yet, it does grab a green. So it does its job, especially with a two-piece golf ball. It really shouldn't have any issue absorbing in there, but it does its job accordingly. So moving on. Pitching wedge, 90.0, anything above 90 I usually say is good. It's right at 90, so I'm just going to say that's average. As far as ball speed, average off of a pitching wedge, nothing spectacular. 8,383, very good spin number. So if you watch my last video, it was actually the top flight hammer control distance. I got 8,400 out of that one, and I was blown away at that spin. That's very high spin numbers. I'm honestly really impressed with this one as well. I usually only get about 8,000 to 8,200 on a pitching wedge full speed. Getting 8,300, 8,400 now. That might be because I'm getting a little bit better. I might be, you know, out there practicing enough to where I'm starting to hit iron shots a little bit better, but it's still impressive for a two-piece golf ball, because essentially what it means is if this cover is good enough, you could actually have this ball come back at you, which is very rare for a two-piece golf ball. So Titleist did really phenomenal there. Hopefully it translates into the 7-iron. All right, so 111.7 miles an hour off the 7-iron. That's very impressive. So I expect a lot of the time these two-piece soft golf balls, I expect them to, you know, come off the club very squishy. Sometimes, you know, like with the hammer control I just did, it came off maybe a little too squishy. I lost a little bit of ball speed. However, with this one, I got a lot more ball speed, but here's where it gets interesting. I had a lot more spin. Usually about 55 to 5,800 with a 7-iron is where I want it to be. That's the sweet spot. I averaged about 6,249. So it is a little high for a two-piece golf ball. Sometimes I'll see that on beginners golf balls, but I'll be honest with you, after playing this golf ball a little bit and seeing some of these numbers, I'm not convinced that it is a beginner golf ball. It doesn't really play like one. It doesn't have a lot of forgiveness. Mishits do punish you quite a bit, you know, whether it be off of the 50-yard pitch, whether it be off of the pitching wedge. You lose a significant amount of ball speed, but also spin. Spin was crazy with how much it didn't forgive me. You know, I mentioned before about how I had 8,383 off the pitching wedge, but when you really look at those numbers and dive in, it's actually like one of them was 10,000, one of them was 5,000, you know, and then one of them is 9,000 and one of them's, you know, 6,000, and then one's like it's all over and it just averages out, and it's mainly because there's just no forgiveness there. With a two-piece golf ball, I really think one of the underrated, underappreciated factors of it is being a forgiving golf ball, and I've played with golf balls that just are super forgiving. You know, the TaylorMade SoftFeel was that way, where no matter where you hit it on the golf club, it just really did a good job of performing the same way and having consistency, and usually that's something that Titleist is pretty good at, but on this golf ball in particular, it wasn't, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe it's not exactly a beginner's ball per se. Maybe it's for a slower swing speed, but a guy who hits his shots pretty, you know, securely and is really good at ball striking, you know, hitting up on the golf ball, things like that. So again, 6,249 is a little high for the 7-iron. Not a lot of forgiveness with the spin. And overall in all, I still ended up getting about the same distance as I would with another ball, just because that spin was so high. The good news is, though, is you are going to stick a green a little bit better. So with a 7-iron, you know, you're going to get to stop almost on a dime with those numbers. And I did notice that on the course. You know, this golf ball sticks. The cover, I didn't like it on the Pro V1 because I thought it ruined the durability. But as far as what they've done with this one, it seems to grab a green pretty well. Honestly, probably better than any of the other two-piece golf balls I've tested. Okay, so these numbers aren't bad. So let's go ahead and start out with 140.7 mile an hour ball speed. Anything over 140 is really awesome. And honestly, for a two-piece golf ball with my swing speed being about 100 to 105 with a driver, that's really impressive. I'm surprised I still got that much out of it. That means that, you know, even if you're a fast swinger, you can benefit from this golf ball. And 2,633 RPMs, anything under 2,700 is awesome, so I really had a lot of success there. But again, I will say the forgiveness on the spin was really low. Looking at these numbers, you know, one's 1,900 and then one's 3,500. You know, one's 2,100 and then one's 3,600. So there's no forgiveness there. Either you hit it really well and it's phenomenal, or you mishit it and it punishes you. And that's gonna be really hard for a lot of guys in the two-piece market, just because I think, honestly, if you're buying a two-piece golf ball, you kind of want the forgiveness. You know, you want it to not curve as much, you know, otherwise you would buy a three-piece. So it's kind of an interesting number there, but we'll save that for a moment. 226.9 on the distance, so I lost about 2 yards, 3 yards than my average. Nothing crazy there. I mean, you might end up getting a little bit more roll out of it or whatever, but most people aren't going to notice 2 or 3 yards on their drives. You know, the iron numbers have always been a lot more predominant to me than that, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. So again, these numbers aren't bad. It's kind of a roller coaster all over looking at them, but again, there's just not a lot of forgiveness, which was really disappointing. I thought Titleist was really going to be able to bring this golf ball and say, hey, we can put up the numbers, but we can also offer that forgiveness, but it just doesn't look like maybe that's the case. I know with a golf ball there has to be balance, but honestly, this golf ball really feels like it's more tailored toward higher quality players rather than beginners. All right, so getting into the durability, this is something I was interested to see because, again, with the Pro V1, I noticed it kind of took a step back as far as my findings showed with this proprietary blend, but honestly, this one's pretty decent. I mean, this went through the gauntlet about 80 to 90 shots. A couple scuffs, a couple scrapes, but honestly, it's still pretty good. And if you feel it, it's still got a good protective layer on there. So honestly, even with this going through there, and again, my golf dot made it the whole time as well, which is awesome. So I'm not sure. I'm sure they're perfecting it all the time and making it better. But as of right now, at this moment, this cover is actually pretty decent. I really like it a lot. It's stuck greens, it's durable, it'll easily get you through 18 holes. Honestly, I mean, I basically played 18 holes with this, and honestly, I would still continue to use it. So I think I could at least get another half round out of it, and heck, you know, depending on how I play, I might even squeeze a full round, but it would be close. But that's still really impressive for an inexpensive two-piece golf ball. It's actually pretty darn impressive. So we're kind of getting into the tricky part here, and I'll be honest with you, this is really tough. It's probably one of the toughest golf balls I've ever tested when it comes to this, but who is it for? You know, off the top of my head, I'm not really sure because, again, you know, it's a really nice golf ball. It has a lot of impressive numbers when it comes to spin, ball speed. I think that the design is really well. I think the cover sticks greens. I think it checks up around the greens really well. I think it has a nice response off the putter. I think it offers a little bit of feedback, which is even nice. But the problem is it's just so unforgiving. And the issue I have with this is that if you're going to get a ball that's a beginner ball or a two-piece golf ball or something like that, the majority of the time, that's the reason I want someone to use a ball like that, is because it's forgiving and because, you know, they can hit off-center shots. But I didn't have that type of success or luck. Now, granted, I do use a Cobra King Tech. You know, it is decently forgiving, but it's still a blade. You know, if you're using a super game improvement iron, these might come off a little different. But based on the numbers I have to assume that it's not really that forgiving. I've tested golf balls that were way more forgiving, which would really put the market in a weird place. I mean, essentially, my understanding and my thinking is if you wanted something that, you know, wasn't as forgiving and that, you know, you could hit, you know, you're a good striker, you're a good ball striker, you hit, you know, at least somewhat in the center every single time. I don't understand why you probably wouldn't play a three-piece. I don't understand why you would go back to a two-piece. I'm sure there's a variety of reasons, but I just don't see a wide open market for this golf ball. The majority of guys I see gravitating toward this are guys who maybe played Pro V1s and then now they're getting older and they have slower swing speeds, which if you're still a good ball striker might work for you. But again, I think that you could still probably play, you know, one of Titleist's three pieces or heck even TaylorMade's three-piece and get a lot better of a performance opposed to this golf ball. So it's kind of in a weird spot, and I kind of ran into this issue with the Mizuno ball I tested. It wasn't really that forgiving, even though it was a two-piece, but the difference is I gained yards and I gained spin, and actually it just performed really well. It was such a great golf ball from the top to bottom that I understood why someone might use it. This one's got certain aspects about it that are great, but as far as the whole golf ball overall, you know, it's got its ups, but it's got its downs too. So I think there are a lot better options out there as far as spending your money. I'm just not sure who the market's for. That's all. Appreciate you staying through the rant, and all in all, guys, always keep watching to keep saving. I really appreciate it. More ball reviews coming your way. As always, keep watching to keep saving and keep learning. Thank you.